Internet Governance Forum has kicked off in Addis Ababa. And Ethiopians in the diaspora step up efforts to portray a picture of the reality in Ethiopia. Good morning, you're watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zoltan Desalegn. Thank you for joining us and do stay tuned. The 17th Global Internet Governance Forum kicked off in Addis Ababa the previous day. United Nations Economic Commission for Africa and Ministry of Innovation and Technology of Ethiopia are hosting a 5-day forum that is expected to attract more than 2,500 participants across the world, including representatives of governments, international organizations, private sectors, as well as academicians. Tugusanisa reports.
The 17th Global Internet Governance Forum, IGF, has kicked off in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, today. United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, and Ministry of Innovation and Technology of Ethiopia are hosting the 5-day forum that's expecting a turnout of over 3,000 participants from across the world, including representatives of government, international organizations, private sectors, as well as academicians.
We need to acknowledge that the role of this forum, IGF, as a network of networks. Over the years, IGF community has exchanged experience and good practices and explored policy solutions for connecting the unconnected. So the IGF has more than 150 national, regional, and youth initiatives. More than 45% of these are in the global south, contributing to the capacity building and the knowledge sharing in the internet governance. The IGF collaboration with the schools and on internet governance also contributes to the institutional and the individual capacity development.
As you know, Ethiopia is having tremendous changes in the country. So this will, we are going to show what we are doing, what are the reforms in the country. Like we are having or launching Digital Ethiopia 2025. So we have a national development plan. We prioritized our ICT sector as a sector from the top 5 pillars sectors. So the world will see what are the reforms as a country level in this sector. And the other is IGF is a platform which gathers from all over the world the stakeholders which are going to discuss in various issues like economic and social issues relating to internet. So while they are discussing through their huge experiences, Ethiopia will get a lot of experiences from other countries' experience. So our private and public sectors will take a lot of lesson from this forum.
The 17th IGF is organized under the theme Resilience of Internet for a Shared, Sustainable and Common Future. In the conference, we'll discuss a range of issues related to the opportunities and challenges of Internet, connecting all people and safeguarding human rights, avoiding Internet fragmentation, governing data, and protecting privacy, enabling safety and security and accountability, as well as addressing advanced technologies, including AI, are the major sub-themes of the forum.
Having such type of forum, especially in developing country like Ethiopia, will help the forum to focusing on the specific issue of that country and the continent. So bringing IGF forum in Ethiopia and Africa has helped us, or will help us to influence the agendas to be discussed on the forum and we influence the agendas to focus on the issue of developing countries.
It is known that there were doubts saying that Ethiopia cannot organize international and continental conferences and meetings due to lack of capacity and lack of peace. But realizing this conference today brings political, economic, and social hosting benefits.
Actually, as you know, there are different groups that are protesting not to bring IGF Forum to Ethiopia. So having the forum in Ethiopia is a clear recognition of Ethiopian effort towards the digital transformation. In the last 3 years, our country, Ethiopia, has made a lot of transformation, a lot of efforts to digitally transform its economy. For instance, it's in the last 3 years that the telecom market is liberalized, and there are also a lot of legal and regulatory mechanisms were in place in the last 3 years. IGF come here to Ethiopia. It's a clear recognition that Ethiopia is in the right direction.
And hosting the 70th IGF conference speaks volume about the country's diplomatic legacy. Tegis Sarnesa reporting for ETV English, UNECA, Addis Ababa.
Ethiopians in the diaspora have stepped up their efforts to portray a true picture of the reality in Ethiopia. A seasoned member of the Ethiopian diaspora says Ethiopians organized under the American Ethiopian Public Affairs Committee have amplified Ethiopia's interests in the U.S. via lobbying. Talking to ETV here, Yared Omelisanwork stated that this endeavor helps the Ethiopian diaspora to influence U.S. lawmakers, as lobbying has impact on which candidate gets elected to office. Binyam Olamayu takes it from here.
Closer contact between Ethiopia and the allies.
In the decade which has elapsed.
The EPAC was established in March 2021 in response to deteriorating Ethio-US relations caused mainly by the slanted view held by some US politicians, aided by fake news from the Western media outlets. Himself a founder of the Ethiopian American Public Affairs Committee, APAC, Yared Omelisanwork says APAC has created a window of opportunity to the Ethiopian diaspora to promote Ethiopia's interest and stance to the U.S. government.
APAC brought a great change, even in the last 2 years, efficiently. Let me give you a good example. What we did last year, we called two of the the gentleman who was running to be the governor of Virginia state and the Commonwealth of Virginia state. And then the Democrat candidate didn't come, but the Republican candidate came to that state APAC members, and he talked to them to maintain the relationship between Ethiopia and America. And then we worked hard around the clock, and because the gentleman was standing to our own cause, good cause of Ethiopia, to keep the relationship between America and Ethiopia. And we mobilized 70,000 voters. Vote has a big power over there. And he became the Republican representing his party, a governor of Virginia and Commonwealth state.
The APAC helps Ethiopian diaspora to nominate their candidates in their province who support the mission of APAC. This has happened in some states of the U.S., such as Georgia. Some U.S. public office holders who previously held inappropriate views on Ethiopia have now changed their minds thanks to the relentless efforts by the Ethiopians.
In this election, midterm election to 2022, in November, what we did is we nominated 35 candidates. Out of that, 32 of them are elected. So this shows you in each state, in California, whether the state I'm in, I'm in Washington State, in Seattle, where the Boeing is, the factory is there. So we brought a growth of influences in different states, in Nevada, name it, in Georgia even. There are a lot of prominent Ethiopians in diaspora. I'm very proud of them, even what they did.
Lisanwork also urged the diaspora community to stand in unison to resist undue foreign pressures and to promote the best interests of Ethiopia globally.
Expressing the presence of cordial and highest-level bilateral relation between Ethiopia and South Sudan, Ambassador James P. Morgan calls for road connectivity between the two countries to scale up people-to-people ties. The ambassador also stated that the peace accord between the Ethiopian government and the TPLF has given a window of opportunities to infrastructure development in the region. Shagai Mato has the following report. Take a look.
South Sudan ambassador to Ethiopia James P. Morgan said Ethiopia and South Sudan have enjoyed long-standing and cordial people-to-people as well as government-to-government relations. Talking to ETV, the ambassador emphasized the two countries are trying their level best to begin road construction between Ethiopia and South Sudan to further strengthen people-to-people relations.
Our bilateral relationship is always very, very cordial and on its highest level. We are fighting our both governments to provide us roads only. We don't need anything. We are here to ask both governments, South Sudan and Ethiopia, to make sure the roads connect these two cities. The road connects these two countries so that the relationship doesn't remain with us as a government. The relationship has to go to people relationship. And that is what we are fighting. Two governments must provide this to us.
Morgan also explained the peace accord signed between the Ethiopian government and the TPLF is significant for infrastructure development in the region.
When there is no peace, we cannot talk of development. We cannot talk of infrastructure. We cannot talk of building the roads. So the signing of this peace agreement between the government of Ethiopia and the TPLF has given us that window of opportunity, which we almost lost. In the last 2 years, nobody was thinking about it anymore. Because how do you do it? Ethiopia was involved in so many internal crises. But now Ethiopia is free from internal crisis, so Ethiopia will focus to lead the region into its prosperity.
The ambassador noted that economic communities in Africa like IGAD have the responsibility to spearhead regional integration to achieve Agenda 2063.
The integration of the continents starts by the regions. So we, in the Horn of Africa, or known as IGAD region, we have a responsibility spearheaded by the economic communities. These economic communities are part of development, economic development in the region of IGAD. You have also found that in SADC, which is the southern part of the continent, we have also an economic community there, or regional economic community. They call them RECs. This regional economic community, whether in SADC, whether in IGAD, whether in ECOWAS, whether in ECAS, or whether in the north than part of the continent, are given responsibility
The ambassador reiterated the necessity of road construction between the two countries to further strengthen the bilateral ties between the two people.
The prevention-based health system being implemented in Ethiopia encourages people to get preventive checkups. This was said when the Prime Minister's office jointly with the Ministry of Health conducted an eye examination for its employees. Speaking at the Prime Minister's office while the workers were being examined, the State Minister of Health, Dr. Dereje Duguma, stated that eye disease is a chronic problem in Ethiopia and Africa in general, and he said that early examination can prevent problems that lead to loss of eyesight. Dr. Dereje said that society should learn to protect itself before being attacked by a disease by practicing early diagnosis. The Prime Minister's office also held an annual discussion with its employees on HIV/AIDS and gender issues. IGAD is providing a 4-day training for stakeholders to its member states to create awareness about blue economy. Speaking on the occasion, IGAD project manager Shati Dejan said further collective efforts are needed to utilize the untapped water resources in Africa. The project manager underlined that adopting policy issues as well as other concerted efforts are critical to realize the concept of blue economy in the continent. The project of blue economy is a new concept initiated by IGAD aiming at alleviating poverty, backwardness, food security, and among others bottlenecks in Africa. Africa is having untapped water potential including fishery, which is not cultivated properly, and the project of blue economy is expected to address such gaps.
So Johan Cruyff, Franz Beckenbauer, two players that they're valuing at over £1 million. Toss up to find out which way they're going to kick in this, the supreme moment. Netherlands versus Deutschland in the World Cup final.